Hello, my name is Jermaine Ross, and I am a 18th year math teacher. And this topic is for teachers. It's for teachers that are teaching the topic called Deriving the Quadratic Formula. All right, so basically, I made a Teachers Pay Teachers Google slide that allow you to teach this better. So basically, they'll take these drag and drops and they'll fill in the steps of what's supposed to be where. They can talk about what's supposed to be where with their classmates or in their small groups, or even do it by themselves for homework. So that way, again, we're doing digital learning right now, or even we're doing digital learning. I think this would be a great way of getting them to derive it without being so worried about the computation. So, so basically, if you want this, you would go to Teachers Pay Teachers, and you just type in deriving the quadratic formula, and you'll type in my teacher pay teacher name, which is math is for everyone. It's gonna be the only thing pop up. This is it. Costs $1.50. So it's a pretty good activity. We'll walk through activity in a moment. But basically, when I decided to make this activity because I went to YouTube because I usually get my ideas for how I want to do things from YouTube. So I usually go because I've been doing it a long time and I can get stuck in doing things my way. So I like to hear how you guys are doing things too. So I go to YouTube, I figure out what other people are doing. So when I went to YouTube, I noticed everyone pretty much did it the same way. I mean, if not the same way, a variation of the exact same way. So, like I went here, I think this is Khan Academy. He's doing the same way that I would do it. Then I just went to lots of different people. Like even this guy, if you watch his video, he's doing the same way that he did, and this guy's doing it. And basically, what teachers do is they get in front of the room and they talk for about 10 minutes, maybe even 12 minutes. And the kids just kind of take notes on that. And it's probably a 10, 15, 20-minute ordeal where you spend 20 minutes of time pretty much just lecturing on how to do this formula. And I gotta admit, it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring. Like I'm a teacher and even I'm just bored looking at an equation. It's pretty much all letters. And they have to derive a new formula from it, which is wonderful. I mean, we have to teach it. Like it is a standard by Common Core to derive the quadratic formula. That's why so many people made these videos because it's a math standard. We have to teach it. But truth be told, after we derive it, everyone gives them the quadratic formula right then and there, right after we derive it for them, and prove that that formula comes from the original equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And then we just give it to them. And then we focus on understanding what discriminant is, how to use the letters to plug in, how to simplify the square roots, how to come up with two solutions and imaginary solutions. So we spend the bulk of our time teaching how to use the quadratic formula, how to use the quadratic formula, not how to derive the quadratic formula. But that is a standard, so we have to teach it. So this is what I suggest you do. Like I wouldn't necessarily just give them this right off the bat. What I did, like I taught this lesson today, and what I did was I basically printed off a sheet of paper that already had the formula derived on it. It saves a lot of time. Like even if you just talked it through, it still can take me 7 minutes at minimum to walk through all of these steps and explain all these steps. However, if I printed it, it only took me like 4 minutes to go through these steps and explain, okay, cool, this is what I'm doing here. I'm dividing by letter A, so my leading coefficient is 1. This is what I did to go from here. I subtracted C over A from both sides. This is what I did here. I used completing the square, which means take half the coefficient of X and square it, put that on both sides of the equation. So this is a way faster than writing all these steps out as we go. So whether we're doing digital learning or regular school, we can present this in a better way. So now instead of spending all this time presenting it and ask kids to write down all these steps and follow along to eventually arrive at this quadratic formula, then they have it. We can teach it this way and spend 4 minutes doing that. So most people you can keep anybody's attention for 4 minutes, I think. So now that you have the attention for 4 minutes, hopefully they absorb some of what you said. It's probably not enough to be a pro at it, but after they absorb that, you can go now into this slide, right? It says step 2, divide each term by leading coefficient of A. And they got to figure out which one of these is that happening in, right? So you can say, well, is this it? Well, some student, if you're in a small group, well, that's not division. It clearly says subtract. So that's not the right one. So the kids kind of debate on their own and figure out what should go where. They can fill it in each one of these slides. The last one says, what should be done to create the equation here? Like, well, you subtract C over A from the right side to the right side of the equation. So you take this, subtract C over A, there it is. So if they're remembering anything what you said, they can say for certain, but if nothing else, they can kind of figure out, well, this must what happened. That must have been what happened. And then they go further and they'll continue doing more of the steps. Like it says, what should be done, what steps should be taken to develop the equation here into the equation here. And we're going to be thinking, they should be thinking, well, it's got the x squared, it's got the b over ax, it's got the negative ca over a in black. And the only thing new is this red stuff. And he's thinking, well, that says 1 over 2 times b over a to the second. Oh, somebody should say, oh yeah, they're completing the square, right? Remember completing the square where they had to come up with that third term to make that a perfect trinomial. So they figure out, okay, which one of these is that? They should drag and drop this. You should complete the square by taking half the coefficient of x, then squaring it. And this is the new number on both sides. And then from there, they would take, it says check for understanding, just understanding what's happening in the computation. And it says, what is another way of writing the product of 1 over 2 times b over a, right? So here it is, 1/2 2a. Now, you might think that's pretty easy, but some kids can have a conversation like, why is it? I mean, where does that come from? What happens to 1 times b? Does 2 go to both of those? Right. This is a math conversation for algebra 1. Then the last one says, well, what is 1 over 2 ba squared? Well, they see this is the answer, but we're modeling it like we were in the beginning. Like I would have told them, like, because I know this is an important thing to understand in algebra, like 1 over 2 times b over a, and these are notes I actually use today. So I have 1 over 2 times b over a to the second means 1b over 2a times 1b over 2a. Well, b and b gives you b to the second, 2a and 2a gives you 4a to the second. But this is what that expression leads to. And now they can understand, okay, cool. I think I have an understanding of how to get there. I think you must have multiplied them together or square them. So now they're getting there. They should be getting a understanding how to derive it if they had to do it on their own. So anyway, so that's b squared over 2a. So that's an important little checkpoint for them. And then from there, they would take this step. It says simplify the equation in step 4 by factoring the left side. So hopefully they know that, all right, then here's step 4. And hopefully we've taught them well enough that a perfect trinomial factors be a binomial squared. So hopefully they know, okay, well, both of these have a binomial squared on the left side. So they can pick any one they want. So let's say I picked the wrong one. I put this one up here. And step 6 says, simplify the right side of the previous equation here into a single fraction. Well, actually, that's the right one, because the right side of that previous equation is this. And to simplify into a single fraction, they should recognize, well, I should have modeled that these are unlike terms. Oh, I'm sorry, they're unlike denominators, and they have to make this denominator become 4a to the second. And they will get this. After they combine that, they will get b squared take away 4ac all over 4a to the second. And then the next slide, they would then take, it says square root both sides of the equation. They got to figure out which one of these equations is being square rooted on both sides. So again, they're focusing on understanding vocabulary and reading and math, and trying to make sense of it. Like that's something that kids should be able to do. They should be comfortable reading and math. All right, so it says simplify the denominator of the expression. There's only one block left, but even then, I hope they can recognize, well, the square root of 4a to the second, if I simplified it, it's 2a. Again, that comes back to when you modeled it, you should have mentioned that. And the last step is here. It says, so what should be done to create the equation below that is solved for the variable x? All right, so you could put this here, but that don't really make sense, because if you got two people that somebody should say, well, that don't make sense. Well, it says what should be done. All right, and then it says, well, if I subtract b over 2a from both sides of the equation here, that would give you this. Like if you subtract the b over 2a, you'll see it right there. Subtract b over 2a to the right side. So there it is. And the last step says combine negative b over 2a plus or minus this fraction to one fraction. And they have the same denominators, so you just combine it across the top. And look, they've just derived the quadratic formula. So you just taught them how to derive the quadratic formula, and they can do it. And the computation wasn't something that they had to do on their own yet. If you want them to do the computation, you can just tell them over and over and over again how to actually do all of that computation. But I think this meets the standard. The standard was derive it, and they just derived it. You modeled it for them, and now they actually did it. And truth be told, that's probably as far as it goes. And the good thing about it is, it's not just simple recall. Like they actually have to analyze some of these things to figure out what goes where, and they're probably going to debate different topics of should it go in this blank, or should it go in that blank, and so forth. So we're doing higher level Bloom's taxonomy, taxonomy verbs, excuse me. And it's more than a simple recall, and it's way more fun than listening to me talk through a video or in a classroom for so long. So I hope that helps. Hope that's useful. Again, if you want to find that Teachers Pay Teacher slides, you can make this on your own, of course. It took me about 4 hours to do all this, maybe a little bit more. But if you want to spend 4 hours doing it, go for it. Or you can just spend $1.50. You have it, and it's done. And you can use it in class. I hope that helps. That's all I have. Good luck.